Hal, it's about time. So over the last 2 years, I've been putting together this prototype bass guitar, mostly focusing on making it so that anyone can build it with simple tools. So all you really need is a saw, a chisel, and some soldering equipment. And yeah, basically you've got a Raspberry Pi here, a special knob here. The special knob I use to control the difficulty, but honestly, it's really up to you to come up with what you want to connect to the Raspberry Pi. I mean, it's really up to your imagination. And yeah, basically, as you can see, the yellow is the highest string, and then red, and then blue, and then green. And each note has that on it. And then I wired the cables through the back side. And I'm going to try to show you how you can put one of these together. All right, so step one, we're going to be doing some unboxing. Don't forget your safety equipment. And I've got a box cutter. And it looks like it's partially unboxed already, but mostly just a lot of tape. Okay, so the next step is to get the strings out of the way, and that's pretty straightforward. You just twist these guys here. You probably don't have to do them like I'm doing it, but I just like doing them all at the same time. Tiny hole. You can label them if you want, but if you look closely, each string is obviously of a different thickness, and so you just have to remember that the thickest string is the one that's closest to you. All right, next we want to detach the neck from the bass. And so we go back here. So for this next part, I like to have one of my PCBs ready and just go through with a white gel pen or some sort of white marker. Doesn't have to be white, just light colored. And basically, you want to make sure you mark out at least how much width you're going to need. And then, if possible, also draw the line on both sides. There we go. And if it's not perfect, we're always going to have a sanding down step later with the file. Okay, for this next part, I recommend wearing a respirator, or at least being in a well-ventilated area, because you're about to get a lot of sawdust. And so I've got a small wood-cutting saw here. I also recommend using a coping saw if you have one of those. I seem to have misplaced mine. And yeah, you just want to go along each one of those lines you just drew and cut it down. And you'll basically be going down through the black wood all the way to the white wood, and that's where you want to stop. This type of bass guitar neck actually does a pretty good guide on keeping us in the right points, because right past where the blackwood ends is where the truss rod is, and you don't want to cut the truss rod. Well, plus you probably can't with this kind of saw, but you want to avoid that. And so that's about as deep as you want to go. And that'll leave us with plenty of depth for our LED as well. Okay, so now you're ready to start soldering. Things you're going to need are your 20 LED strips. You're going to need a soldering iron. It's going to be very useful to have a Arduino with simple addressable LED code on it already. That way you can test as you go, which is extremely useful. And due to the linear nature of these LED strips, it's actually incredibly easy to debug when something goes wrong, because it'll just point at the one, like it'll stop working at the one that's broken. So yeah, so you want some solder for your soldering iron. You want various tools. Mostly you want a wire stripper that's the right size. That's going to save you so much time. Yeah, get one that's the right size. One of these clippy thingies is going to be good for the overshoot. Once you put the wire through the pins or through holes. And I don't know if I'll need this one, but it seems useful. And then obviously you'll want at least 3 colors. I'm going to go with red for 5-volt, blue for ground, and green for signal. And yeah, make sure, you probably can't see it even if I strip them, but you want the solid core ones, not the multi-threaded ones, because multi-threaded ones are a giant pain to fit through these through holes over and over. And yeah, we're ready to start. So I've got this rudimentary paper diagram, which kind of explains how the soldering goes. So we've got 6 holes on this guy. Let's see if this works. I don't know. Okay, there we go. So we've got 6 holes, and these correspond to these 6 places. So basically you've got DI, that one's going to be green, and that's going to be signal. That's from the previous LED strip. Then we've got 5 volts in, and that's just connected to the 5 volts out and the rest of the system. And that one we're going to go in through here and then go out through there. We've got digital out, that's going to be green. That one's going to go on to the next guy. We've got a ground that's going to come in underneath and to here. And then we've got another ground, which is the out one for the next strip. And so yeah, we're just going to like daisy chain these on the way up. I like to have the LEDs for this part on so that if I do fold a cable the wrong way, which does happen, that I know right away. And so the trick is going to be, like, once you glue it, it's going to want to stay there, and there's things you can do if you make a mistake, but doing it right in this step will save us a lot of time in the future. And then there are things that I forgot to remove some of these extra cables, so I'm going to do that right now. I need some safety equipment. Okay, so yeah, you just got to make sure all your LEDs are lined up. And then you're going to be holding onto them while you apply the hot glue to make sure that they are fully seated in their channels. as the hot glue cools. All right, let's do this. And yeah, and you mostly just want to worry about that, I don't know if you can see that, but that the highest point of the LED is below the wooden part of your fret. So basically it's all within the channel. All right, so we can start applying the hot glue. Okay, so the LED strips are all in a good place. We've checked that they're all below the horizontal. I guess they could look neater, but for the most part they look pretty nice. So the next step is we need to make a channel, I guess a double channel. We need to block off the ends of the channels with duct tape because we want to make like small cradles. Okay, so we're here in my garage because of the fumes. And it's not that smelly, but I have a feeling there's a lot of warnings on this, and I have some safety equipment on. Anyways, so I'm going to be using this tabletop epoxy, also known as resin, pretty sure. I had to heat it up a bit in front of the room heater, just for like a minute or two while I was watching it, because as you can see it's getting kind of gloopy. And then I've got the epoxy hardener. I've got 2 cups. That way I can do, the right amount. It'll be easy because I can just, tell that they're at the same height. I've got a stirring rod. I've got the base. I put it on aluminum foil because this stuff, if it starts falling off, it's basically like, well, yeah, glue / epoxy resin. It'll like solidify, and it's a giant pain to clean up. So I put some aluminum foil. You could probably use newspapers too, I believe. And then I've got a heater because this stuff will cure way better if it's warmer, which it's probably like in the 50s in my garage. So yeah. So let's get to it. Also, gloves are very useful for this because this stuff is very sticky and it does not come off. Apparently, in order to get it off, you have to like use baking powder or baking soda and then like soap and then scrub it for a while. As you can see, it's very gloopy. Alright, let's see how much I've got. It's hard to tell because it won't flatten out. But yeah. So you want to have, I guess if you have a scale that can go that low, I recommend using that. Okay, so next let's open up the pick guard. So we can talk about what changes need to be made to the base. The main modification we have to make is we need to cut a channel from here to here so that the LED cables can, be routed to the Raspberry Pi. The second thing we want to do is maybe cut like a zone right here where our Raspberry Pi will sit. And again, we'll have to figure out how to best orient it. And then finally, we'll probably want to drill a hole out here in the back so that the power cable can come in. I mean, for your system, you can also, make another like groove and put, well, you don't want to do it there, but, make another groove somewhere and put your power system. I like putting my power system outside because that way I can change it around without having to open this up. So yeah, we do a sudo python 3 strand test after doing the pip install, and if you did it right, it should be going nuts. Don't forget to do sudo raspi config, and then we are going to do interface options, and we need to turn on SPI, yes. And we also want to turn on interface options and go to SSH. Yes. So now it's time to clean up this mess.